Imagine watching the movie The Lion King. You have Simba, the young lion who is forced to flee his home after his father's tragic death. However, he returns, overcomes his fears, and reclaims his kingdom. But here's the thing you need to know: The Lion King is not just a story about a lion and his adventures. It is a tale built on patterns, oppositions, and structures that have existed in stories for centuries. And that is where structuralism comes in. The way meaning is created through relationships and patterns in the story. Have you ever wondered how we make sense of everything around us? Why certain patterns appear over and over again, even in different cultures and languages? That is where structuralism comes in. Imagine looking at a text not just as a story or a poem, but just as a puzzle, and each piece fitting into a larger hidden structure. Today, we are going to explore how structuralism helps us decode these patterns in literature and language, showing that meaning is not just about individual words, but about the system as a whole. And to begin this, let's understand what structuralism actually is. Imagine a language as a giant web. Every word, every sentence is connected to others, and it is these connections that give meaning. Structuralism is a theory that looks at the underlying structures that govern language and culture. Instead of focusing on just one word or one sentence, structuralists look at how words relate to each other within a system. A famous name to remember here is Ferdinand de Saussure. He is a linguist who led the foundation of structuralism. According to Saussure, meaning is not created by individual words themselves, but by their relationships with other words. For example, the word tree only makes sense because it is not flower, car, or dog. The meaning of tree depends on what it is not. And this idea of relationships between words is the core of structuralism. One of the most interesting concepts in structuralism is the idea of binary oppositions. These are pairs of opposite ideas that help shape meaning. For example, think of pairs like life and death, love and hate, good and evil. Structuralists believe that these oppositions are essential for understanding how language and culture work. Think about Frankenstein, written by Mary Shelley. The novel explores the binary opposition of creator and creation. Victor Frankenstein, as the creator, is contrasted with the monster, which is his creation. And this contrast between the two shapes the entire narrative and the themes of responsibility, power, and isolation. And in this way, binary oppositions help us understand the deeper meanings of characters, plots, and even themes in literature. When we apply structuralism to literature, we start looking at how stories and characters are built from the ground up. For example, in many fairy tales, we see recurring structural elements. There's always a hero, a villain, a quest, and a resolution. And these basic building blocks form a structure that makes fairy tales instantly recognizable, no matter the culture or specific story. A great example of this is Cinderella. The basic structure of the Cinderella story is the same across different versions, with a young woman in distress, a magical helper, a transformation, and a prince who saves her. Structuralists analyze these elements and see that the story is not just about a girl and a prince. It is about a structure of transformation and reward. In every retelling, these basic structural elements work to convey certain ideas, like the victory of good over evil or the idea that virtue is rewarded. Now let's talk about another person, Claude Lévi-Strauss. I'm sure you have heard this name while discussing structuralism. He applied structuralism to the study of myths and culture. Lévi-Strauss believed that myths, no matter how different that may seem across cultures, follow similar structures. He argued that the human mind works in similar ways, and that is why we find similar themes, motives, and structures in myths around the world. For example, many myths follow a pattern of a hero going on a journey, facing challenges, and then returning transformed. These structures are what Lévi-Strauss called mythic structures, and he believed they reflected the way the human mind organizes and interprets experiences. The key point here is that even though the stories are different, the underlying structure is the same. So, how do we actually use structuralism to analyze literature? Let's take, for example, The Great Gatsby, written by F. Scott Fitzgerald. A structuralist might look at the relationship between the major characters Gatsby, Daisy, Tom, and Nick. They would focus on how each character fits into the larger structure of class, wealth, and the American dream, most importantly. It is not just about what happens to Gatsby, it is about how his rise and fall reflect a social system. And structuralism helps us understand that the text is a part of a much bigger structure. It is a part of a much bigger system. It is not just individual characters or events that matter. It is the relationships between them, the themes that connect them, and how these themes represent a system of values, ideas, or social norms. So, to wrap up, structuralism gives us a powerful way to look at literature, language, and even culture. Instead of focusing on individual words or characters, it helps us understand how everything fits together to create meaning. Whether it is through binary opposition, the structures of myths, or the relationships between characters, structuralism reveals that meaning is never created in isolation. It is all about systems, connections, and patterns. However, the picture doesn't end with structuralism. In the next video, we'll discuss how post-structuralism looks like, and we'll discuss the concept of post-structuralism in details. So if you think that this video has helped you in any way or the other, do like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.